Welcome to Books We've Never Read,
Except for those we have.
a weekly book club.
I'm Nicole.
And I'm Jason.
And this is episode 8 or 9.
I think this is 9, yeah.
Where we're going to cover parts 3 and 4 of Death's End by Cixin Liu. And Death's End is the third book in the Remembrance of Earth Past series by Cixin Liu. Make sure this is really the video that you want to be watching because we spoil whatever there is to be spoiled. So check out our other videos if you're not actually up to this point in the reading. Everything's playlisted for you, and that's books 1, 2, and 3 of the series so far. Please like and subscribe and add to the comments below with your own thoughts from your reading. We've really loved reading all of those, and I'm excited to be wrapping this book up.
Yeah. So next week is going to be the last reading in this book, and then we've already announced our next book. It is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton, I think is his name. Mm-hmm. And so when we wrap up Death's End next weekend, we are going to go straight into the next week reading The 7.5 Deaths. Mm-hmm. So that first reading will be the following week, and we hope that you'll stick along for that. It is free as of this recording.
Yeah, if
on
you're
Amazon Prime.
If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, it's free for Amazon Prime readers.
Gotcha. So for your Kindle, if you want to read it digitally.
And you don't have to have a Kindle. You can download the Kindle app on any device.
Yeah, so cool.
And it's also available on public library apps and maybe your used bookstore.
Excellent. Is that all the...
That's all
housekeepings?
All the housekeepings.
Okay, well, let's jump right in.
Now, I will tell you what.
Yeah.
Parts 3 and 4, kind of draggy.
I thought the same thing. So part 3 has the fairy tales, so it's definitely not
exciting.
It's definitely not my least favorite part. Part 4 is my least favorite part.
But it was so quick.
Of all the stuff we've read, and like this has been coming, right? Because I've really enjoyed everything, and so something had to be my least favorite.
Sure.
And when we get to talking about part 4, I don't quite see the point, and I'm hoping that parts 5 and 6 will wrap that up for me.
Right, because do we know where Gravity and Blue space are?
So that's also an interesting thing about these two parts is that we don't talk about those. We mention those ships, but we don't have any like POVs for them. So, I don't know.
I've accidentally activated our Google Home. So if that happened to you also, I don't know what I said, but I'm sorry.
Gravity.
You think it was gravity?
Yeah. All right, but that's a storyline that I'm definitely interested in. What's going on with the whole fourth dimension situation, and we have little touches of that here and there. But those were really exciting, right? We pick right back up in part 3 with like the Trisolarians just being like, all right, see you, we're not coming back anymore. And one of my favorite things about like the beginning is they all just like immediately, so like the war is over, so they start a new war, and they all turn on like the Earth security forces people, and they bring back the death penalty. They just execute everybody.
Man, yeah, I actually thought it was unfair that they executed the ESF members.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I don't mind, whatever, I guess. Like, they are traitors to humanity.
But everyone else was also trying to beat. And
yes, that's the thing. Everybody else applied too.
So this kind of reminds me of when, and I think my stance is a little hypocritical because I change how I feel about it, but when we've had, massive genocides and stuff like that throughout time, it's interesting how those who were like the prison guards and had some authority or whatever, so many of them just had authority or like did their job because they also didn't want to die.
Right.
And they were doing horrible things to people, but to save themselves. Mm-hmm. And I'm real mixed on how do we punish that. I mean, they were also victims, and it was just a terrible time. And
then it does say that they are the ones who actually facilitated everybody getting back to where they needed to go,
right.
And that if they didn't exist, none of it, like, they couldn't have bounced back. It does not forgive what they have done, but it is something, right?
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I didn't agree with the Mexican. I also didn't agree back in parts 1 and 2 when they brought gravity back, or no, sorry, Bronze Age back, and tricked them off the ship and then imprisoned them. I mean,
I don't know why I see this as different. Probably because like Bronze Age did not ally, like it did not. I don't know if it was a betrayal. They did not join another team, right? Mm-hmm. They like made their own, but the ESF people joined the other team, and so it's a little more complicated, I think. You know, it's in that same chapter, I think, where we see Trisolaris explode. So that was really cool. I enjoyed that part. I really like our Aboriginal character. I think he's a lot of fun. Yeah. He's a good guy.
So that brings me to kind of what I think makes parts 3 and 4 a bit of a drag. Cixin Liu has done such a great job of, throughout this series, making us feel the amount of time that has passed. And with the amount of time that has passed, and with all that we've learned of other life forms and how tiny we really are in the cosmos, all the characters are so insignificant, and I am so detached to all of them. So I was excited to have Frez around. It was kind of, child, take a look at the moon tonight.
Yep.
Like, you know, that was kind of great, and I was hoping that would go somewhere, and it didn't. He died, and we never saw him again, and whatever. All these characters are coming and going, and I don't care.
There's a lot of that, especially in these two parts, where, like, and then they died, and like it didn't mean anything, and I find that to be particularly beautiful. And our resident crazy person, Thomas Wade, you know, actually says that later on in his execution, right? She says, I can't remember. She asked him to tell him his. Chongqing says, "Tell me your story," and he says, "I'm just one of the many people who has died. Like, so what?" Mm-hmm. You know, and I think there's something to that. Like in the grand cosmic scheme of things, it's all coming and going, and you know, man, what is it they say, that death is the only lighthouse, right? Mm-hmm. It is the only thing that like we're really aiming towards. Ultimately, the universe is going to die, and I find that weird and like comforting in a way.
Yeah.
So because there's no struggle, right? Like it just is.
Yeah. Well, and especially for a time when there is so much struggle.
Sure.
There's so many catastrophes and so much chaos in between calm times. And what does it all boil down to? You know, that death is inescapable, and that was definitely a recurring motif throughout this portion.
Well, it's a good juxtaposition to, especially in part 3, there are several times where we go back and talk about how humanity has just gotten used to this. Somebody will show up and save us because it keeps happening.
It keeps happening.
and you know, I wonder what happens like if humanity was there at the end of the universe, at the heat death, and they were just like, something is going to happen and we will be okay, right? Like this hope springs eternal. And so you have these two things, right? Everybody keeps coming and going and knowing this to stay around. But somebody's always going to save us. Yeah. And I really enjoyed the play between those two things, I think.
That's a dangerous mindset to, you know, that someone else will come and save us. You know, no one is putting themselves in the position of responsibility to do the saving.
Right.
And I mean, we see that in reality, right? Like there's all kinds of those studies of, you know, somebody's injured out in public and 120 people walk by before someone stops and actually...
Because somebody else will handle it.
Someone else will handle it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, sure. Yeah.
Oh, one more thing before you move on. You were just talking about Sofan and how, like, towards the beginning of part 3, it's like, okay, well, we're going to go now. I would like to live in Sofan's house.
Yeah, seems cool.
It was great. Her gardens and hook me up with the way of the tea. I'm here for it.
This is also so. I mean, talk about Sofan, right? They Chongqing and Luoji go to her house, and they ask for information, and like she's not really giving it. And then Luoji has this idea to ask, like, well, is there a way to broadcast that we're safe? And that's such a fascinating concept, right? And one of our viewers mentioned this on a past video about how, like, we've done something like this before with like nuclear waste. How do we let people 1,000 years in the future that may not know English or Chinese or anything? How do we let them know that this is dangerous? And And so we've already started thinking about this. And one of the ideas for like the nuclear waste was to have these radioactive cats that glow in the dark, and then you would like spray down this. This is real. That we would change the DNA. We were putting like jellyfish DNA or something in cats that would glow in the dark near nuclear waste. And so if you saw the glow in the dark cats, like you knew to get out of there, and you would just pass down this like ghost cat myth or whatever. And that was the way you would protect people. But, you know, we have these universal symbols like, you know, stop and cancel and all that kind of stuff. And so how do you do that to the universe? And that's such a complicated question. And it seems almost insurmountable. And then when I first started thinking about it, like, because Tianming's message is all about the cosmic safety notice. But they don't find out about this thing until he's been off of Earth for like 200 years. And so I was like, at first it really bothered me. Why would he be sending that information back to you? Because he didn't even know that was a thing that y'all cared about. And like that didn't add up. But then I realized in making my notes that he had always been watching Chongqing by Sofan, so he must have known about that conversation, and then was like, yes, gotcha. You know, I'll put that in there. But even then, that conversation wasn't all that far before she actually goes and meet Tianming. I don't know. I have a little bit of a problem with like the continuity there. They have no concept of the cosmic safety notice until, a couple weeks before she goes to meet Tianming.
Right, but he just might have already had, like...
Yeah, but like, what are the odds of all the information that you could embed in your stories that you're like,
Well, because that's... The Sophons already knew that they looked like a danger from afar, and it was because of the curvature jet streams.
Yeah, I just kind of had like because he wrote these stories years ago.
But how much of the story was really related to the safety notice?
All of it. And then there's the curvature drive, but all of it.
Okay.
Yeah. That was like the main point, right? And whenever the people sit down in the room, they're like, all right, we need to figure out what Tianming is telling us about the cosmic safety notice. Like, why would y'all think that he knows about it, right? Like, they just all assumed that this is what they were looking for. And that just kind of bugged me a little bit. Let's see. One of the other things that was like in that kind of section was they were talking about how dark force strikes are casual and economical, right? Like you're firing without looking.
Yeah, they're not investigating. They just see the signs.
Yeah, and that's okay. So that's what this note means. How do you send a message? We're safe to someone who is not even looking. Right? Just like boop. All right, send off our little missile. We're done here.
Well, they had the idea of dumbifying themselves.
Yeah, that was a good time.
But there would be a group of smart people, to keep control of
Yeah.
everyone else. Yikes.
That part was pretty funny.
Yikes.
I really, talking about Tianming, I guess, I really enjoyed that scene of
Red light, green light,
and
yellow light.
meet. It was, I really honestly expected her to die. Because she was already trying to die before she goes. But I think that's why Tianming asked to see her, right? Like, he was trying to save her on some level. To give her, like, some purpose or something, so.
Yeah, she's...
Because how hard must that be for Tianming to, like, be over here in this spaceship, watching her by Sofan, and, like, see her just get wrecked on repeat over and over and over
becoming
again.
more and more depressed.
Yeah. That's got to be hard because she's like the only person he ever cared about.
Yeah, that's heartbreaking. What about the last piece of the puzzle? From his stories, they don't know what the pictures mean, the paintings mean.
Well, so I have a lot of thoughts on that. So before we get to that point, though, what if she had asked, I want to hear your stories. What would have happened?
Yeah.
Right? And I assume that he basically baked the same information
into all of them.
Well, at least into 3 stories each, right? But I don't know. What if he was like, okay, well, you don't get cosmic safety notice because you asked for a warp drive, right? Like, that's what you asked for, so that's what you get. But I thought that was funny. But so talking about the stories, right? We don't know what the paintings mean. The stories were awesome. I had a great time. And not only that, but we were joking around about this the other day because Cixin Liu like writes in a part where one of the literature people on the team
Like,
says, "Hey, by the way, these are really great fairy tales." I'm like,
so well written.
right.
It's a very Shakespearean
Yes.
moment. You know, Shakespeare did a lot of that in his own plays.
And what it reminded me of was the meme where Obama is putting a medal on Obama. Cixin Liu's just like, "Great job, man. You're great." That was very funny. But while we were going through the stories, did you have any good guesses? Like, did you pick out any of these things that happened? There were some things I don't think could have been picked out.
Yeah, I mean, while I was reading, I was trying to put some pieces together, and I was disappointed at how quickly all the mystery of it was wrapped up. Afterwards,
Really?
I wanted
some more
to drag it on, and like I
don't
wanted
think
a
it's
chance
done.
to be able to put my pieces together. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like it didn't go like Dan Brown on us, right? Like it was wrapped up, and some of it was stuff you can, like the Hershing and Mosigan. Like how would I have ever figured that out?
I was Googling places.
Okay.
I was trying to break apart, but I couldn't. I wasn't familiar enough with any of the names to like spell it differently.
Right.
But yeah, I was.
Well, and I like how what it was. They were like, well, it's just mispronounced because it was in Chinese and it's like a Norwegian name or whatever. I thought that was like really funny. Like,
Yeah.
just because there is a pronunciation difference.
Yeah.
That tickled me. I don't think that they have figured out. I think everybody just like found the bits they were looking for and kind of gave up. And you know, they make this comment. Well, the only thing we don't know is what the pictures mean. That's just not true. There's all kinds of stuff
in there. Yeah.
And you know, like Prince Ice Sands is such a like colossal crazy person, like torturing animals and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you're trying to make a fairy tale, it just doesn't need to be that detailed. And I guess everything needs to be detailed because the Trisolarians could be like, well, something like, you know, you have to put out all this like false, you know, false trails, I suppose. But I really don't think we're done, and I think in parts 5 and 6 we're going to see more stuff that has to do with this, and maybe it won't even be discussed. But I think that there's a precursor civilization, like there is in like Halo and like all this other stuff. Like I think that the king and the queen represent some race that created all these things, maybe, and that there is this alien race out there that is Prince Ice Sands, who is like knocking everybody off, right? Like they are the ones that are doing like the strikes, maybe, or something. And maybe there are like some other civilizations that are protectors, like Deepwater, or you know. But I think there's something there. And later on, when they discover the bubbles left by the warp drives, they find that like something has been hanging out near us and watching us, and then left, and we don't know when that was. But maybe that's one of these things. And so I'm holding out a lot of hope.
Okay.
For that to resolve somehow, right? And they have one other theory early on that Chongqing immediately shoots down, and they're like, "Hey, I think you're the princess," and she's like, "No, get out of here." I would have like spun the umbrella myself, and like she just disproves of that. But it seems very clear to me that it is.
Why?
Because at the end of the story, the princess says to her knight or whatever, like, "Hey, let's go off beyond the Storyless Kingdom and let's cross the sea." And that's exactly what Tian Ming asks of her, right? Let's meet near our star. Yeah. And so the characters mean, because so far it's items that mean things. And by and the items, I'm going to include like the sea and the island, right? Those are items, but the characters don't mean anything yet. So there's something going on there.
The paintings reminded me of a few things. In the very first book of this series, there's been this concept that has stood out to me, and I've thought of it many times since reading it. Wang Mao talked about, he was the photographer guy. He had talked about a photo that looked completely empty, but actually held so much data, you know, that it just couldn't be processed. So those paintings reminded me of that. And then also in book 2, Luoji's wife talking about the different styles of painting that she painted certain landscapes and that dealt with negative space and whatever. And so, I mean, and I don't think that they're necessarily related. It just reminded me of that. But just now, the king and the queen stuck in the painting reminded me of Galway stuck in his black hole. He's really dead on his end, but he's eternally stuck in the event horizon of the teeny black hole.
Okay.
Huh. And we know something to do with time is happening.
Right.
And
so maybe this thing that is living is no longer living, but is perfectly preserved. All right, you might be onto something there.
I don't know, but
I like that.
That is what that reminded me of as we were talking about it.
Well done. One of the umbrella represents a centrifugal governor. Did you look that up? They're actually really cool. Go look those up. They're really cool. I'm not gonna try to explain it here, but as it goes up and down because of the force, it opens and shuts the ability for the steam to move through. So it keeps it at a steady speed, which is really neat. And it's considered one of the first industrial mechanisms that we ever had.
Oh wow.
So it's pretty cool. I really enjoyed that. I also, I didn't really write a lot of notes about the stories because they're so complex, and I'm not sure what a whole lot of it meant, you know. But I did enjoy when they go to the whirlpool, and they just eat dinner in this whirlpool.
They're just slow.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part.
Spiraling to their death and eating their fish.
Well, and one of them says, it might be Jason, the boat captain. But he says, we can't avoid the apocalypse, so we must enjoy the present. And it again comes back to this, it's all going to end anyway. And I felt like that scene in particular was just speaking to me, right? It was, hey, you, right? We can't avoid the apocalypse, so you must enjoy the present. As they just sit there in their little boat and eat it. And then the helicopter comes down and picks them up, right? So somebody saves them again. And so here we have that
but this really is a good, this whole series is a good tale for us. A lesson in, how much are we willing to do to escape our inevitable fate?
Yeah.
Look at all this chaos. During the Fate's Decision or whatever that little chapter was called, when everyone rushes to the shuttles and people are getting burned up and we will do anything, right? Kicking and screaming and clawing over each other. It's like the scene where Sophon drops the food and everybody tramples each other until she cuts everybody's heads off. Yeah.
And just we will do anything to escape the terror of night, right? The terror of the darkness. Which is weird because I don't think that's true of everyone, right?
Right.
I don't particularly feel that way. But I think most people do,
But he just keeps showing us over and again that you can go all the way to be a satellite of Jupiter and death still awaits you.
Right. All this stuff in part 3 right here reminded me of Time Lapse of the Future by Melody Sheep. If you don't know what that is, check it out. It's on YouTube. It's one of my favorite things to fall asleep to. But it takes you through the history from now until the end of the universe, and it speeds up every second on some order of magnitude. And it's got beautiful music, and they talk about it the whole way. And towards the end of that one, they talk about how humans would try to escape into other universes, parallel universes.
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because also on that note, Melody Sheep also has another song out that songifies a lot of talks by famous astrophysicists, including Neil deGrasse Tyson and a few others, but it talks about really what is E equals MC squared, and it kind of helps you if you're not very familiar with the speed of light and how all that really works. I was really singing that while I was reading some of the stuff, and I think
I've seen that one.
I was like, this song really helped me.
Okay.
It's very catchy, and it is by Melody Sheep.
Okay, cool.
It's a good one. Highly recommend.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that more or less gets us to the end of part 3-ish.
I honestly can't tell you where they begin and end.
I gotcha, okay.
Well, no, because so let's talk about this. So I think this is in part 3. Xing Chen just gives away her company to Thomas Wade.
Chongqing, yeah.
Chongqing, sorry.
I think it's actually, I don't know which part. It doesn't
Because then she goes to sleep.
Yeah, well, so
And then she wakes up and it's part 4.
After getting Tianming's message, we come up with these 2 ideas, right? One is the and what are they called? The black domain. One is the black domain, where we're going to slow down the speed of light, and you might
cut ourselves off.
Right, and that is
the potential of the rest of the universe.
So, and then one is the bunker project, which is why I bring it up. But so, if we slow down the speed of light to that speed, it means that light can't escape the gravity of the sun. And then because nothing can go faster than light, like now we just can't leave. Is that the deal?
Right. We can't escape the event horizon, yeah.
So we're just like stuck in here.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And they're like, it's plenty big. Our solar system. It's fine.
Yeah. How crazy. And so anything that looks at us would just like see a black hole, and they may not even see us.
Just see absence of, yeah.
And then on top of that, if you were to shoot a dark force projectile thing like at it, it would just, I think they said it would slow down as soon as it hit it, so it would just shatter.
Oh, I don't know.
I think that's what they said.
I missed that part.
Because it's going at like the speed of light, and then the speed of light immediately slows down.
Shoot,
whatever.
That's smart.
Yeah. I think that's what they said.
Makes me feel very claustrophobic.
Yeah, I don't really care for it.
Even though our solar system is plenty big.
Yeah, but again though, like, there will be a death of the sun.
Right. And so we're still not.
So we're not getting away from it. Yeah, I don't know. But the bunker project is the other idea, and it's just like, look, now that we know we're all going to die,
let's hang out around Jupiter.
Hang out on the other side, use it as a shield. It's a great plan, for the short term. But you're right. Like, Thomas Wade just shows up. He's like, give me your company. And she doesn't actually just say yes. She goes back and talks to AA, who says, no, you should do it. You're a weakling. Like, that's basically what she says. I don't think I made a note. But look, I mean, let's be honest. He's right. And whenever I have now read both of these sections twice. And the first time I read it, I was just like, this is so weird, right? Like, this makes no sense to me. He asks, and they just say, sure, or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then in rereading it, she can't do things.
Right.
She just can't. And she doesn't have the will to pull the trigger when she was the sword holder. And that whole scene of them on the launch pad, I felt like it was like a weird spot where I didn't care about the story. It didn't go anywhere. Nothing happened. But it does give us another thing, like, hey, don't forget, when it comes down to it, to save herself and the people that she cares about, she can't do anything to like harm others. And that scene is like directly before they go in and she meets Thomas Wade again. And so, I mean, he's right. It has to be him or anybody else, I suppose, right? But like, it can't be her. It can't be Chongqing. She doesn't have the backbone to do this.
Yeah.
So, let's see. They had talking about the spaceport. They had a false alarm, and it's from them discovering like the curvature issues at the edge of the solar system. But it reminded me of the time that Hawaii had those fake missile things, and everybody lost their minds. So
that was so bad.
Yeah, but there's like some real life analogies there, I suppose. So let's see. That is actually the end of part 3, where she is talking to him, because then she goes into hibernation and she comes back.
Because he guarantees he will wake her up.
Yeah.
If there's something that can harm humans.
So whenever they go into part 4 and she wakes up, and everything is similar to her original time, and they don't ever address that necessarily, but I bet it's because of the influence of Thomas Wade. If he's running the Halo group and he's building all these things, then of course the world is going to be made in the image that he wants it to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that probably makes the most sense that it is solely his will, right? But also, like, how disconcerting must it be? Right? She's like 33 or something.
Yeah. And
she, like, how wild. In what is to you the course of like 3 or 4 years.
Right.
To have all of this happen to you. She was sword holder like 2 years ago.
Like,
and she was a kid in college like 5 years ago. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the point of part 4 is, because she gives Thomas Wade the ability to make these curvature drives. They've now built their bunker world. They wake her up, and she says, hey, kill the curvature drive.
Because they have
antimatter bullets.
Antimatter bullets.
Yeah.
They've created a black hole.
Yep. But just like, why did we do this in the first? Like, why didn't we just say no to begin with? You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how I feel.
But
and it's gonna get wrapped up, I believe.
He advanced technology exponentially.
Yeah, that's true.
His work, and just think of what it's going to be when she wakes up again.
Yeah, I guess I feel like if we don't get this curvature drive and she doesn't go meet Tian Ming and her star, then all of this was for naught. Like,
Does she even really believe she's going to meet Tian Ming at the star?
I don't know, but I need
How's
that to
he
happen.
going to get to the star? He's a prisoner.
I don't know. I need that to happen.
I
Because to me, that's the point of her interest in it at all, right? Is to get there.
But I mean, she has just not talked about it at all, and she's not even thought about it.
I think a little, maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So one of the thoughts we do hear a lot from her is how much she depends on these old men, old-styled men.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Luo.
Everybody calls him child. Yeah.
You got Friss, and you've got Wade.
Mm-hmm.
And it's common for us to see, things in threes or whatever. But we also have Yun Tian Ming, and she doesn't admire him.
Yeah.
She doesn't talk. But so I don't know. I was just I made a little chart. Just trying to piece together what's the significance and importance of these fellas and the role that they play in her world. We have Luoji. His name means logic. Mm-hmm. He's the silent one. And I was going with logic, like maybe there's going to be a logic, maybe there's going to be the empathy, there's going to be, I don't know, but Friss is like the nature man.
Well, he might be the empathetic one.
Right.
Yeah.
We have Wade, who's just brute force, right? He's action.
How many humors are there? Are there 4 humors or 3?
Oh, I don't know.
I think there's 4. But maybe there's that, right? There's
and the only one left of those is Yun Tian Ming.
Yeah. So he gets to be the other one. We'll look it up later. We can talk about it in the stream.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I don't know. There is something to that, right? There's these 4 male characters in her life that are doing their thing. Sure.
And I mean, one actively tried to murder her, and she's still up to his death. Depends on him. That's so weird to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. Anyway.
I think, talking about the cities was really cool. Like, I mean, like...
The bunker cities?
I do not feel like it progressed the story for me, but being able to explore the concept
that was really cool.
Is part of why I'm reading this. You
right.
know? And so I did enjoy that. And one of the other things it reminded me of is a series that I like a lot called Knights of Sidonia. I don't know if we've ever watched it together. It's an anime, though, but they live in a tube thing, like a tube city, and it reminded me of that a lot. My favorite city is the anarchist city. I find that idea very interesting. Like space homelessness.
Yeah.
All very
floating
interesting.
with their stuff in a net.
Yeah. And, of all the people that we've talked about, you cannot avoid the apocalypse, enjoy the present. There's just like this one homeless city, and they're doing that, and interesting, I enjoyed that spot. I don't think I would live there, but I enjoyed that one.
Well, and I mentioned in our last episode that I really love how Cixin Liu builds these settings.
Yeah.
I just think he does such a great job, and I kind of want to go back, and I didn't have time this week to reread sections like I normally do. And I'd like to go back and reread the description of all the different cities that they visited, because it was fascinating.
Yeah. There's only one ghost city, right? And that's Lightspeed 2, where they built the black hole and they built the city around it or whatever. That whole, we spent a lot of time for them just to be like, hey, we made a black hole, right? Like a lot of time. And we have this scientist who got himself sucked in and all that.
Galway.
And I don't think, And that's my thing, right? I didn't particularly enjoy part 4, but I think it's because I haven't read 5 and 6 yet.
We can't appreciate it because we don't know where we're going.
Right. And so I think that whole part is going to come back around. Somehow that bit is foreshadowing. That bit about him being sucked in and is he alive or dead? Do we pay the life insurance on him? Right?
Man, that was something like just way to like punch us with a bit of reality. Like, of course, the life insurance company. Technically, he's not deceased. He's still there.
Yeah, that part was really
well,
funny.
And, that is a point of fascination. If you could go through a black hole without being ripped apart, what's on the,
what's it like?
What's on the other side?
Well, I mean, like it should be like nothing because at that point, like not even light is moving. I suppose, right? Is the theory? I'm not sure. You probably know more,
but if we can unlock another dimension,
I mean.
And if you can exist in a plane where light doesn't have to move, so that means time isn't real.
Yeah. Well, but then if light doesn't move, then you're not moving. Because you can't go faster than light. So it's just eternal horror. You're stuck.
It's like that.
Except it's probably not even, it's probably like an instant of horror because
like
your brain can't move.
A time before time or whatever it is where it's just like none of this has happened and none of it ever will happen and none of this is happening now.
Yeah.
But then how are you writing it down?
Yeah. You're talking about you mentioned earlier their technology and they have the black hole. They also have this, they got the antimatter bullets from their circumsolar particle accelerator. Mm-hmm. That was really cool.
That particle accelerator, that was so neat.
Yeah, that's very smart.
I even, in my mind, like, looked around to see if I could see the next ring, and he's like, well, I mean, it's like, a million whatever's away, like, from the Earth to the moon 50,000 times. You can't see it from here. But
yeah, that was really cool.
Just peering around trying to see it. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, that is so cool.
Yeah. But, I don't know, it's... Thomas Wade builds all this stuff, and then she shuts it down again. Like, she gives it all back to the government, which we know we can't trust anymore by this point in the story, right? They're going to do something dumb with it. They always do.
Yeah.
And then she and AA decide that they're going to go hang out on Earth for a while, which is cool, whatever. And then they're just going to go to the future when the Dark Forest strike comes, right? They're going to the apocalypse now. Like, we're finally getting there. Mm-hmm. And she's like, hit the pause button on drives and stuff, right? Like it's over, and it didn't have to be, I don't know. They still could have tested these drives far enough away to not draw attention to the solar system or whatever.
Right. Yes, I was very frustrated with that.
Because it seems to me that if Trisolaris has already done that, but they didn't make a black domain, probably the easier option for us is to do that. Mm-hmm. Right? Slowing down light and making a black hole of the whole solar system definitely seems to be the moonshot, right? Like, that's not the one that you pick when you're gambling.
But I don't see that, like, technology has stopped. You can't put it back in the bag. Once it's out, it's out. And it's just like how they weren't supposed to be working on curvature drive and light speed, but they were doing it anyway.
I have a feeling we'll discover that there's a ship. And she's the one who's going to get away from here. I don't know that the black domain is ever going to happen. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
How?
I wrote down a quote that I liked about, them being okay with going the black domain route. The child that was human civilization had opened the door to her home and glanced outside. The endless night terrified her so much that she shuddered against the expansive and profound darkness and shut the door firmly.
Yeah. And nope.
And I said good day.
Yep. It's kind of sad, but like it's what they have to do for survival, despite the fact that like they're still going to die someday. I don't know. I don't know.
The idea of black domain makes me very sad.
Yeah.
Because I want to like know as much as I can possibly know before I die. And so even if that brings death sooner, through aliens or whatever, I want to see it and I want to know it and to shut ourselves off completely from any opportunity.
Sad. Like I definitely don't think I have authority to decide for humanity, like, all right, it's time to be over. But I also think, like, well, if we're all going to die, like, let's just do it. Like, let's just go see what we can see and do it.
Yeah. Let's take our chances.
But, like, am I living my life that way right now? No. No. So I don't know. But I find the Black Domain in a weird way to be, like, cowardly. Like, I find it to be...
I mean, it is a protective position.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, like, we go on the offensive or whatever. But after reading these fairy tales, like, I think, like, I have a feeling that there is a bad guy out there. And what if this dark forest thing is just because there's this bad guy out there who keeps, like, wrecking people and making paintings of them or whatever? Well, let's go get him.
Yeah,
let's go after that
boss.
Guy. And let's make this, like, a nice place to be. I don't know. That's what I think.
I liked the talk. Sorry, this is kind of back to part 3.
Do you think?
When Cixin Liu's, he always takes time to tell us, like, how are the people doing? Like, the whole Earth turned into church and they sent up their space cross.
Yeah.
And, like, they had to really reconcile that there weren't aliens mentioned in the Garden of Eden.
Yeah, I made a note about that. Yeah.
That really had me tickled. And then they start taking down, in part 4, I think they start taking down the cross.
At some point they run out of money or something.
Like, it's just a 1.
Yeah.
Just a floating 1 hanging out. That was so funny.
I thought that was funny because I definitely think all of that is believable. Like, someday there will be a giant space cross, and someday, because, like, I think the odds are that there's aliens out there, religion is going to have to grapple with, like, hey, y'all weren't at the Garden of Eden, so, like, what does that mean?
You weren't on the Ark.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What's up?
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
So, that'll be an interesting day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that they're just going to roll over and be like, hey, we were wrong.
No, they have to reconcile this missing information as a misinterpretation,
right.
And
somehow
it's all got to get worked out. And I was also sad when Sophon left, even though I fully recognized that she went ninja nutso on us all.
Yeah. Well, and she didn't leave; she wasn't real.
She was real to me, though.
Yeah. Felt like she was just a shell for her Trisolarian.
But it was our way to, like,
or whatever.
It was our way to interact with the Trisolarian.
Yeah. Well, and they're gone now, right?
Yeah.
The Sophon free rooms were cool. The fact that we figured that out eventually was neat.
Too late, though. Yeah. Like, do you think that the Sophons are really all gone?
I think so. They give a compelling reason for
that. Like, there's not enough, and they can't produce more.
Right, and so
and if they lose contact,
then they're gone. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, who cares what happens to us?
Yeah. I wish that they would have been more attached to us. Mm-hmm. I wish we didn't have to each all be left to our own.
Yeah.
And that we could tackle this problem species to species.
Yeah. Probably that they should, if thinking back on it now, and, like, I think that generally Dark Forest strikes are the right move. Like, knock out your opponents before they even have the chance, like, on a survival scale. The fact that the Trisolarians have left us here, they're banking on us being destroyed, but what if we don't? Mm-hmm. Probably the right move for them is to destroy us themselves. And what they should do is empty out one of their ships, put everybody else on, like, the other ships, like, whatever, double bunk, doesn't matter, dehydrate some people. We know their ships can go light speed. That's as fast as, like, these particles that are hitting their star. Mm-hmm. So they should just blast at light speed one of their ships into our sun, blow it up, and be done with it.
Yeah, why didn't they do that?
That's the right move. They should have done that.
Like, why didn't they go ahead and attack us?
Well, I mean, they didn't attack us because, like, we could have wrecked them. I don't know. But, yeah, you might as well. Take one of the droplets, get it to go to light speed. I guess the droplets couldn't go light speed. Yeah, they're cool.
It's very cool. But yeah, I think just compared to how amazing parts 1 and 2 were, getting to go into that other dimension and we've just hit this, like, stretch of time where progress is kind of standing still. Like, we're making it 2 steps forward and 5 steps back.
I really enjoyed the fairy tales. I really enjoyed them. But I guess the thing is, like, it's not that I don't care for Changxin, it's that she is oftentimes a hindrance to progress, right? And so because she's a hindrance to progress, she's also a hindrance to the story, like moving along.
Mm-hmm.
Like she keeps setting us back, and I just want, I want to get on to the next thing, and we're still stuck here doing her thing, and she's not moving at the speed that I want to move at. Thomas Wade might be going a little too fast for me, but she's going too slow.
Gosh, seeing his old 150-year-old
He got
self
laser blasted.
just instantaneous death.
Yeah, smoking his little cigar.
Hey, he's like, I only need 3.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, I miss Dasha.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too.
This has been a lonely book without him.
Yeah, we don't have any comic relief anymore.
Well, and it's, what humor is there to be had when you just have this... This is just a story of despair at this point.
Yeah.
It's nothing but panic and contrived problem solving.
I guess, I don't really like complainers, and I don't like whiners. I want people to figure out their problems.
Yeah.
And in the face of death, there is no figuring it out. So just, shut up and live your best life.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the thing, right? Is, they're just trying to eke out a few hundred more years, 1,000 more years, whatever it is, right? Please don't go, please don't go. And it's this permeating fear. And maybe that's how we live our lives now. But, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe nations do. But it's sad.
It's a bummer.
Yeah.
It's a real bummer.
Yeah. Because, it's just... Enjoy yourselves, guys.
Mm-hmm. But, what a fantastical world, at this point in time when she goes into hibernation, going into part 5.
Yeah.
What an incredible world universe, solar system that we have now with, the Jupiter satellites.
Sure.
And the people that chose to remain on Earth are just living like kings with all their acreage. And
It is physically a place I would like to go to. But it is, spiritually not.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah. Not a lot of joy.
And maybe for the average person, maybe it's fine. And maybe they don't, often think about these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But for the characters that we are following...
Because they're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And
this is why all presidents go gray immediately, right? Is because they are...
They're the holders of the knowledge.
Yeah, they are the sword holder, right? They are the people who have to make it happen. And I'm lucky enough that I don't have to.
We don't have to deal with that. We can just enjoy life and have a book club and just do our thing. Sophan had said something before she left. The universe is grand, but life is grander.
Yeah.
And back to Eden and, the story that we've eaten from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Are we just forever doomed because we chase after knowledge? Are we doomed to be miserable and doomed to try to fight against death because we're always chasing after what the possibilities are, and that makes us unhappy?
Maybe so. Talking about Eden, here we are trying to make this Eden again, a place of innocence, right? We are no threat. Mm-hmm. It's a place of perfection in our black domain or whatever, and
Okay, at one point, talking about this, how do we send out the signal that we are safe, and so what's the, our deterrence there or whatever, and it has to be a system where, as soon as any one person on the planet has ill will, then we destruct.
Yeah.
I can't trust anybody like that. Someone's gonna have a bad dream and none of us wake up again.
But it's such an interesting question though, because I'm not convinced that slowing down light is a thing we will ever be capable of. But if we wanted to do this, how would we do it? And sending out a signal is not acceptable, right? It's just not, because you are just telegraphing your location.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really just don't feel like I have a lot to say until I read the next 2 bits, right? Because I feel like I'm missing something. I don't get it. Yeah. I don't understand.
But I think he's built this book up the way he's supposed to.
Well, and maybe part of why I feel this way is I now lack a clear antagonist in the Trisolarans. They're gone.
Yeah.
And so in the first book, even though I hadn't finished it, I knew that we were going to war with aliens.
Yeah.
And in the second book, even though I hadn't finished it, I knew we were going to war with aliens. And in the third book, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
And like, so it's not, I don't have anywhere to like direct my energy, I suppose. So.
Yeah, we have nothing but questions.
Yeah.
We don't, all we know is that Chengxin's going to wake up at Doomsday.
Yeah.
So, let's go read.
Yeah, I wasn't going to read tonight, but I guess I am now, because now I'm like psyched about it again.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Even though I think that this is the slowest part, I still enjoy this.
It wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't bad. And it's a slow part because I made it a part, right? Like we said, this is what we're reading this week.
This is how we split it, and we could have split it differently.
So, all told, still an incredible series.
Still an amazing story. There's so much, just overall, so much to like about these books.
Yeah.
If you can be entertained by sci-fi, then you will be. And if you can be entertained by science, you will be. And if you can just be entertained by good storytelling, you will be.
Well, I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many people I've suggested this to who are not necessarily sci-fi readers, but who are telling me like, hey, I'm reading it. I'm way behind where y'all are. Because this is not my normal thing that's heavy, but like I'm really enjoying it. And they're still in book 1 or whatever. I'm like, it just gets better.
Yeah.
It just does. So I'm excited to finish that. I need to know.
Yeah, I'm ready to wrap this up and quit dreaming about it. You know?
Yeah. Cool. Well, do you have anything else you want to talk about?
I think that is all of my notes.
Okay. Well, thank you for sticking with us today and for reading this section. Next week, or for this following week, we're reading parts 5 and 6. That should be taking us through the remainder of Death's End. And then also coming next weekend or sometime this week, we're going to have a syllabus for our next book, The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. So be looking out for that, even though the first reading won't be due until 2 weeks from today. So.
Yeah, we just want to make sure that you know how much to read.
Yeah.
I feel like when we transitioned from book 2 to book 3, we didn't give enough time to really let everyone know how much needed to be read. We were just like, we'll see you next week, starting the book, and then we were kind of late on releasing the syllabus, and I just want to make sure everyone has time.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
See you next time. Oh, I got broken. Let's try again.
Oh, God.
No, it's fine.